For example, a small infant doesn't talk, doesn't know anything, cries. What would you do? You start breastfeeding, but the child doesn't want to suck. Okay, if one doesn't want to eat, maybe one wants to sleep. You try to lull the baby, but one doesn't want to sleep and keeps screaming. Maybe the child pooped. No, everything's okay, so what else could it be? Maybe they can't poop, you check their tummy. It's normal, relaxed, not tense. The baby keeps screaming. What would you do? Take them outside. They will fall asleep there. Who likes walking outdoors? People with dogs. Because we're stupid, we don't understand, but dogs understand that you need to go outside. They bark and bark. You take them outside. You can't listen to how they bark anymore, so you take the dog for a walk. The dog takes its owner outside, and the owner becomes healthier because of the dog. Who else walks in parks? People with dogs, people with children, old ladies, because if they don't go outside, they'll die, so there's only one option for them. The normal option is to go to the park and walk, otherwise they'll die. There's no possibility for them to just sit at home anymore. Who else goes for a walk? The person who possesses knowledge. Who else? Lovers, because they need a lot of energy. When a person falls in love, they can't do without the energy of nature. The energy of love requires a lot of nature. When people fall in love, they don't notice rain, cold, or sun. Nature simply nourishes them. Everyone else withers away at home. Everyone meets in nature. No one meets at home. People need the energy of nature, but people work all the time. People don't understand that nature is needed. These three forces provide energy. The next problem is the problem of understanding. How to use this energy, how to communicate. Let's say people create a family and then they get surprised because it seemed like the relationship was normal. They got married and somehow everything went wrong. Scandals and arguments began. The girl was good, but as soon as the man fell in love with her, she started being capricious. Guys, who has noticed that the girl was good, but as soon as you fell in love, she immediately started being capricious? Why is this happening? The guy was also normal, but as soon as she started dating him, he immediately became so businesslike. They date and conflicts begin. The reason is expectations. A person really wants love and they feel love. When a person feels love, they begin to wait. And everyone has their own expectations, and you need to know what is expected of you. And this is always humiliating because you are forced to do what you are not yet ready to do but must. What is this for? For the happiness of the person who is nearby. A man needs to behave very gently and carefully with a girl, to rejoice at her, to take care of her, to behave kindly. Why should a man behave this way with a woman? Because she is created from love. She is very gentle by nature, very shy. Women are so sensitive by nature, their consciousness is very refined. Men don't know any of this, but if they, for example, studied this, they would then know how to behave. They would know that they need to be very careful, affectionate, gentle, and not pay attention to a woman's caprices. Then the girl would feel happiness in her heart because she likes it when a man behaves this way. A man needs recognition. A girl should look at him with respect and give recognition. If he says something, she should pretend that she is very interested. He knows that she's not interested, but he likes that she pretends to be interested. In relationships, love is needed, truth is not needed. Whenever my wife gets upset, I always apologize, but I never feel guilty. I say, please forgive me. She says, I found out from my friends that in your lectures you say you don't feel guilty. I say, but right now I do feel guilty. She says, I can't forgive you right now. I know she won't forgive me now, so I don't expect anything. This is the first attempt. It's always unsuccessful. I approach her a second time, after some time, and say, forgive me, I'm guilty, although I don't feel guilty myself. And she says she'll forgive me tomorrow, and tomorrow she does forgive me. And when she forgives me, I begin to understand what I did wrong, because she starts treating me kindly. Through this kindness, I receive knowledge in my heart about what I did wrong. I begin to understand. Truth is always somewhere in between people. It's very difficult to understand. It always seems that there's less truth there, more truth here. Every person needs what they were born for. Take a little girl when she's born. What does she want? How is she designed? How does she look at people? She shows everyone that she's good. And everyone says, how good you are, because she wants to be a good little girl. She wants everyone to consider her good. And when a girl grows up, she looks at the world in exactly the same way. She just doesn't know it. All women look with this gaze that says, I'm good, look how good I am, I'm a good person. A little boy, does he want to be good? Have you asked him? You say, good boy. What will he say? He'll say, no, he doesn't need to be good. because he was born for completely different things. He was born to prove himself. He was born to win, to prove, to overcome. He was born for strength, for success. A boy really wants to be strong. He wants to prove himself. He wants to overcome obstacles. And a girl is born to be good. If we start building close relationships, we should never consider a woman bad. We shouldn't say that she's bad. She will never accept that. She is always good, even when she's upset or angry, always good. Of course, there are problems. When there's an argument, whose side will the children be on? Whose side will the dog be on? On mom's side, because she feeds them. And the cockroaches will also be on mom's side, I'm telling you for sure. He has no one. No one will defend him. All relatives will also defend her. Everyone will defend her. He remains alone. A man is defenseless in the family. He has to defend himself. What else can he do? All a woman's shortcomings are hidden under a veil of purity. Let's say being offended. It's the same as anger. But being offended is not something bad for a woman. For a man, it's a disgusting thing. A man shouldn't get offended. And when a man gets angry, it's also bad. But when a woman gets offended, it's normal. Because she is good, she is never bad. When a woman deceives, she's just hiding something. But when a man deceives, he's lying. A woman is good, a man is bad. But if a wife looks at her husband with faith, he will love her. And if she looks at him as a bad person, then he will find someone else. Because love doesn't flow through her. This is called attitude. If you have strength, you should know how to use this strength. If you've gained strength from nature, good people, prayer, try to understand how to use it. One man wrote me a thank you note. Dr. Torsunov, thank you for the treatment. I can now argue with my wife without my heart hurting, thank God. I think, why did I heal him? It would have been better if his heart hurt, then he wouldn't argue with his wife. There are relationships of love in which truth doesn't matter, love matters. People in love relationships try to prove their truth. Why does quarreling happen? Why do they argue? They defend their truth. When a person in a love relationship defends truth, love is destroyed. Moreover, in relationships of love, truth is subordinate to love. My wife comes up and says, "Forgive me, I'm guilty." I tell her, "What should I forgive you for? Everything is fine. You were tired, that's why you behaved that way. I didn't feel humiliated at all." Although this is not true. She hurt me, I felt humiliated, but when she came to apologize, I told her an untruth, and she was happy. If I had told her the truth, she would never have come to apologize again. You apologize and then get scolded for it too. In a love relationship, truth is not of great importance, but people often destroy their family with their truth, female truth or male truth. Everyone insists on their own truth. Do you think a woman can understand a man's truth deeply and completely? Can she? No, she can't. And can a man understand a woman's truth? A man cannot understand a woman's truth. Why argue then? Everyone defends their own truth. Give in. Try to give in. You may say that your close person is being impudent. This is a stage in a close relationship. You can treat them kindly, and they will already feel better. A woman starts commanding her husband. A man, if a woman gives in, becomes impudent. But there are two ways to give in. One way is out of fear of losing the person. This is called humiliation. When a person gives in through humiliation, they lose themselves and lose love. And the second way to give in is out of nobility, out of kindness to the person. And this second way of giving in is a stage of disciplining the person. You first allow the person, and gratitude toward you appears in their heart. Do you know what gratitude is? It's when you overcome your fate. Why does a close person behave badly with you? Because it's your fate. But you forgive them, treat them kindly, and at some point they continue to behave badly, but gratitude appears in their heart, and you feel it. This is God's energy. The Lord says, that's it, you are forgiven by me. They can now behave however they want with you, but I have forgiven you. You give in and overcome your bad fate. You don't have to humiliate yourself anymore, suffer from your close person. Gratitude appears in the heart of your close person. And at this stage, you can already discipline them. You need to distance yourself if they behave badly, and gratitude won't let them behave badly with you. They may try, but nothing will work, because they will understand that they are wrong, because you are a good person.
And if you keep giving in, but there's still no gratitude?
Strength runs out, it happens. This means that you cannot discipline your close person. You don't have the ability to do this. Because there is only one way to love. It is to take strength from God and love God. Hope in Him, rely on God, and give strength to your close person. There is only one way to build relationships. But you don't take from God. You take from yourself, and a person has two sources of energy in their heart. One I call a lake. It is inside a person, and it gets depleted. The lake dries up, the person runs out of strength. And the second way is to take strength from God and give it to your close person. This is called a prayerful mood. Your close person tells you something, and you think about God at that time. Remembering God gives you strength to endure. You don't think about their words, you think about God and become filled with protection. And it goes through you like a flow. You can help your close person for a long time, discipline them for a long time. You become a self-sufficient person. You don't depend on your close person. Building relationships is not easy, but if a person knows how to do it, they can do it. And in general, there are two types of people. Some want to build relationships with us and others don't. And those who don't want to, they need misfortune. You won't be able to help them. They will not behave as they should. Why don't they want to? Because they are sure that everything is fine with them. This confidence passes when misfortune comes, and you just need to understand this. If a person doesn't want to change, you can't force them. Just live calmly, treat them kindly, and wait at a distance. The time will come, and they will understand that they can't continue living like this. Prayer is needed. Prayer also helps. Misfortune can come earlier than it should and activate a person's consciousness. For example, a woman took care of her husband for many years, but he behaved badly with her, yelled at her, and so on. But he didn't betray or cheat, he just behaved badly. And she should have said, "I'm divorcing you." She should have done it earlier. Or just start living separately. She should have done it earlier. He had gratitude in his heart for a long time already, but he didn't want to change. When he realized that he was losing such a good, wonderful wife, then he sharply changed his opinion, but it was already too late. She was already leaving him. There are two ways to discipline a close person. One way is when they want to change. This is the kind way. The second way, when they don't want to change, is the way of strength. To use this way of strength, you need to first invest your kindness in the person, receive gratitude, and then distance yourself. Show that you are a self-sufficient person, that you don't depend on them. One woman tells me, "Dr. Torsunov, I distanced myself. After 2 weeks, my husband calls, asks if I can stay away longer. He's resting very well without me." She herself annoyed him and then distanced herself. You need to first take care of the person so that gratitude appears in their heart, then you can distance yourself.
What you're describing now, does it only work with husband and wife or with relatives and close friends too?
It concerns love, relationships of love. Business relationships are a separate topic. We are now getting a bit engaged. I first told you that 80% of people suffer from lack of energy. I described 3 types of energy deficiency. One type occurs most often when people take offense, when they have tension with each other, or are in a bad mood. This is a lack of nature's energy. We will also talk about how to get this energy. The second type of problem is social strength. When a person becomes self-absorbed, they become powerless. They are constantly thinking about their life. And the third type of problem is when a person loses the meaning of life. Lack of energy from nature, lack of energy from good people or social strength, lack of energy from God. These are 3 types of energy deficiency. They need to be replenished. If you don't replenish them, nothing will work. We gave an example of a person who hit his head against a wall and forgot that he needed to eat. We are in such a situation. We have forgotten, we don't know that we need to replenish the energy that comes from nature, good people, and God. We look for energy from our relatives, we nag them. All types of scolding mean, "Give me strength. Why don't you love me? Why don't you appreciate me? Why don't you help me?" And so on. We expect strength from someone close to us. But when things get difficult for us, our loved ones become our enemies. They won't give us strength because they themselves become depleted at that moment. Therefore, we won't get what we're waiting for. And families fall apart because of this, because we become disappointed in our loved ones, expecting help from them. But they, on the contrary, in difficult times betray us, as it seems, and leave us. If a person understands where to get strength from, they won't encounter this problem. And the next topic is the knowledge of relationships. The next topic is knowledge. So you have energy, you have strength. What to do, how to behave with a woman. Gently, tenderly, carefully. This is called respect. It's a big topic. Respect. How to respect a woman. You need to be happy when you meet her. Be happy. Look at her and be happy. Happiness arises. And if there is no happiness, be happy anyway, because love is activated through behavior. If a person is well-mannered and knows what is right, then love will come later. My wife once told me that when she used to go to rhythmic gymnastics in her childhood, her father would always meet her at the door. She would open the door, and her father would be standing there. She would ask, "Dad, have you been standing here long?" And he would say, "Since you left, I've been standing here." But her father would simply come to the door when she arrived, and that's how he behaved, and she really liked it. She knew that he probably wasn't standing there the whole time, but it made her very happy. She loved her father very much because of this, because her father waited for her like that. She loved him for this. Once my wife went somewhere. She always passes by my room when she comes back home, and I see her. She opens the door. I'm standing by the door with my head down like this. She says, "Why are you standing there?" I say, "Waiting for you." "Have you been standing long?" I say, "Since you left, I've been standing here." And she was very happy. Because this is the right behavior, to be brave in a relationship, not to be afraid to do nice things for your loved one, not to be afraid of behavior that will bring happiness. Well, you might say this behavior should be spontaneous, only with God. But what concerns loved ones, first the Lord gives us infatuation, and everything is spontaneous. Infatuation is not our achievement, it's not our energy. We think that infatuation comes from the close person. No, and they also think it comes from you. But in reality, it's God's energy. It's God who gives it. And how does He do it? He opens in my eyes such a vision, as in the song, "I see the dawn in your eyes, I hear the singing of birds in your words, the sunbeam of your love and light, you bring me the dawn." It's not the person who brings the dawn is brought by God.
And if a person is married and there is infatuation, so is it the Lord who gives this?
No, that was bad fate. There are two types of love. There is pure, bright love, and there is love desire. If you love a married man, you desire him. This is not pure, bright love. This is befouled love, and real love is pure by nature. And it's impossible to purely love a married person. How will you love purely? This person is not yours.
Everything happens differently?
Yes, everything is different. There is divine love. This is pure love. This can only be understood through a song. There is such a song. "The sky will be covered with stardust and the branches will bend. I will hear you from thousands of miles away." We are tenderness. We are each other's long-lasting tenderness. Pure, bright memories about a person. And this feeling ends. God gives knowledge about purity. A person has a soul and a subtle energy body. Every person has both feminine and masculine qualities. Let's say the soul wants love, tenderness, harmony in life. It is tired of suffering and torment. It wants love and happiness, tenderness, harmony. And God reveals divine feminine qualities in this soul at birth. The soul receives a female body, and God reveals in her beauty, purity, tenderness, gentleness, kindness, faithfulness. These are divine feminine qualities. God reveals them in this soul. If the soul wants victory, strength, influence, overcoming difficulties, divine masculine qualities are revealed: determination, firmness, prudence, generosity, self-possession, self-control. Divine masculine qualities are revealed. And people mostly don't see them. While you live your life, they don't see these divine qualities in you. But when God wants to connect you with someone, you see divine qualities in that person. You begin to see in them what others don't see: purity, beauty. When two people see divine qualities in each other, it means they have mutual love. It means God's will is acting through this. A novice approached his mentor and asked, "How can I love my wife for my entire life?" He says, "Remember how you saw her the first time and keep this memory for your whole life. Whatever she does, however she behaves, consider it superficial, not the most important thing about her. The most important thing is what you saw the first time. That's the most important. And love that in her, and don't pay attention to everything else." This is what needs to be done in a relationship. You need to remember what God showed you and strive for that. Learn to see the good in your loved one, and you need to understand in what atmosphere, in what environment the energy of love acts. It's a light environment. Love can't exist in an environment of proving who's right. When a woman proves her female truth, she destroys love. When a man proves his male truth, he destroys love. Love lives in a playful atmosphere. Jokes, light style, kind light style. If a close person does something wrong, you should try not to pay attention. Treat them gently, kindly. Accept their behavior. Accept means you're no longer angry. You can then discipline them in a joking manner. But if you don't accept the person, then you can't discipline them. Only through kindness can you impart knowledge to a person's heart. If there is no kindness, they won't receive the knowledge, because they won't hear you. You need to calm down first and then explain something. If you feel offended, go away and pray. Accept what has come from a close person into your life, from a child, from a spouse, and then you'll be able to talk about it kindly. But there are two types of people. Some want to be changed and others don't. If a person doesn't want you to change them, you can only gradually melt their heart with kindness, love, and care so that they would want to change. They should become grateful to you and then they will begin to change. This takes time, but some people are ready right away. But you shouldn't use this roughly. If a person wants to change, you should always behave very delicately in a relationship. Close your eyes and remember your close person. There are three types of options. The first option, you can't remember. This means your connection is completely clogged. The second option, you remember with some unpleasant feelings. This means you need to work on your relationship. The thread between you, your connection, is under tension. And the third option, bright memories. You remember and have a bright memory of your close person. This means there is love between you. It is not destroyed, not ruined by wrong behavior. The road ahead should be bright. You need a bright memory of the person to keep purity in your memory. Not resentment, not dislike, not disappointment, but a bright memory. And if there is no bright memory, it means you need to cleanse it, because God gave you this person through love. There was a bright memory at first, then it disappeared. A woman says, for example, I got to know him better. You didn't get to know him better. You were befouled by his fate. You were befouled under the influence of fate. All people have very painful close relationships because they have great expectations. When you greatly expect something and don't receive it, pain arises in your heart. That's why there is such a song. Even in love, in mutual love, there is only torment. Apparently it lives alongside happiness. Even in mutual love, there is only torment because people expect something. Therefore, you need to know that these relationships are painful. Family relationships are painful by nature. Therefore, you need to behave very carefully there. You need to be respectful to a man. Respect his opinion. He is born for victory. So you need to consider him a winner. Believe that he can do everything. A woman is born for tenderness. So you need to behave very tenderly, affectionately. It can't be otherwise. Each person is born for something, and you need to behave with them as they need, not as you need.
There is a question. How to make my wife work less?
You don't need to force her to work less. You need to be gentle and affectionate with her. Why does she work a lot? She is afraid of personal life. A woman has two reactions. One reaction, she can retreat into resentment, into despair. And the second reaction is escape from family life. Where do you think a woman rests more, at home or at work?
At work.
And where does a man rest more, at work or at home?
At home.
At work.
We have some opponents here. Why does he rest at work? He should be working at work. A woman rests at work. When she comes home, does she rest? No. She comes home, she needs to do laundry, cook, clean up, she takes care of everyone. She watches over the children, watches over her husband. The life of loved ones is the most important thing for a woman. She doesn't live her own life. If her husband does something wrong, it immediately hurts her. She cannot bear it. When a husband behaves incorrectly, she cannot bear it. That's why she nags him, because she controls her husband. I give you lectures, I come home, my wife gives me lectures. I give you lectures here. At home, my wife gives lectures to me. Therefore, each person is tuned to a certain thing. And you can't do anything about it. Each person has their own nature. A woman works a lot because she is not engaged in her personal life. She needs to be engaged through kindness, through affection, attention. She should feel that she is comfortable at home with you. Then her heart will gradually melt, and she will spend more time at home, less at work. A man needs to be inspired, believed in, and then he will go to work. When a man sits at home, everyone feels bad. When a woman goes to work, everyone also feels bad. When a woman is at home, everyone feels good. When a man is at work, everyone also feels good.
How to trust men?
How to trust? Very good question. Any faith is faith in God. You need to believe that God will help. Because a woman sees everything in a man and doesn't forget anything. A man doesn't see anything in his wife, forgets everything. She smiles and he forgets everything. But a woman doesn't forget anything. If a woman does something wrong, a man says, "What are you doing?" And he points it out to her. In response, a woman starts listing everything the man did. This is what you did yesterday, a year ago, 5 years ago, and she fires these memories at him. Okay, enough, I understand everything, he says. Is arguing male energy or female energy? It is female energy.
So they provoke us.
If a man starts arguing, he is lost. He will always be the fool and the wife will always be good. And nothing good will come of this in his life. Therefore, when a wife throws a tantrum, screams, stamps her feet, a man should always remain calm. He should remain calm. He should not argue with his wife or get angry at her. And then the wife will think, I have a very intelligent husband. She will respect him greatly because he doesn't argue with her, doesn't pay attention to her when such things happen. A man must learn to do this. A man should not be weak. He shouldn't react. If his wife wants to clarify something in a kind way, then please, let's talk. But if she cries, throws a tantrum, stamps her feet, then he shouldn't react. You need to ignore it, although it's very painful. A woman knows which button to press in a man's heart. Now will be a moment of truth. For you men, this will be a moment of truth. Ladies, now you must tell me the truth in secret. This is completely secret information. Raise your hand if you tell your husband not what is actually happening, but simply to make him angry, to spite him. You see, some women raised their hands and some didn't, although they do the same thing. Women sometimes do this because they feel disadvantaged. A woman is designed to seek protection from a man in a relationship. And therefore, if a woman feels bad, then a man should also feel bad. I'm now explaining to men how a woman is designed. If she feels bad, she will torment him, torture him, because she can't stand that only she feels bad. He should also feel bad. If she feels good, she will make her husband feel good too. If she feels bad, she will make her husband feel bad. She won't be alone. She always shares everything she has. That's how female nature works. And a man should know this. My wife got angry once and said, I shouldn't have married you. I never loved you. I don't like you and never liked you. Although before marriage she listened to my lectures, dreamed of getting a husband like Dr. Torsunov, since there is no second one like him, God gave her Dr. Torsunov. And she tells me such things. The next day I say, well, what are we going to do? She says, what do you mean? I say, you told me such things. She says, you shouldn't pay attention to such words. I understood then if she herself doesn't trust her words, why should I trust them? When a woman is angry, you shouldn't trust her words. She exaggerates everything a lot. She speaks with the purpose of throwing a man off balance. There is no other purpose. She's getting revenge.
For what?
If there was a real reason, she would kill him. For what? She's in a bad mood. She feels bad. A lion and lioness sit next to each other and are silent. The lioness turns and says, are you going to ask for forgiveness? He turns and says, not yet. They continue sitting. After some time passes, she turns to him. Well, are you going to ask for forgiveness? He says, I'm going to. Silence again. Then he says, forgive me, dear, for you biting me. This is the best version of a family relationship. If a husband nags his wife, it's not very good. If he oppresses her, acts like a despot, it means she behaved incorrectly with him, set herself up incorrectly. Remember, this is a very important point. Relationships are about knowing your self-worth. A worthy woman has the right to take care of her husband, and a humiliated woman does not have such a right. If she takes care of him with the purpose of staying with him, with the purpose that he doesn't leave, then this is called humiliation, and it brings out the most terrible qualities in a man that could possibly exist. He simply becomes a despot. Only a worthy woman can take care of her husband, because care can generate either gratitude or cruelty in a man. A woman can poison her husband's heart, simply turn him into a monster if she takes care of him with humiliation. A woman should never be humiliated in a relationship. Remember, a man and a woman have an equal relationship. A love relationship, a family relationship is an equal relationship. This is not a relationship where one is junior and the other is senior. A woman is not junior. She just deliberately behaves in a way to make her husband more comfortable, because a man likes to show his strength, to be stronger, so a woman gives in. This is simply her choice. It doesn't mean she is junior. She can at some point stop giving in. When a man loses himself in life, she can act as a mentor for him and start telling the truth. This is normal, it happens, but it's very important to understand what self-esteem is. It's a kind of strength that is located right in a person's heart, and it regulates everything in a person's life. When self-esteem suffers, a person loses themselves. Loses relationships, luck, success, loses everything in life. Self-esteem is a very important thing in life. Americans are very concerned about self-esteem. They are very much engaged in it, interested in it. This is a very important component of their life. They protect their self-esteem, defend it, try to be strong, worthy, independent. Have you noticed?
They have a different mentality.
Self-esteem is necessary for all people on earth. You must understand that you should protect your self-esteem. You need to understand how to do it. There are different ways to bring self-esteem out of balance, which leads a person to misfortune. The first problem is pride. When a person's self-esteem is out of balance and goes upward, and the person holds their head high, begins to show everyone how cool they are. This is a problem for Americans. This doesn't lead to anything good in life. Such a person loses friends, loses themselves, remains alone, becomes lonely. The second option is when self-esteem goes down. This is called humiliation. A person becomes miserable, tormented. Usually when confronted with a proud person, you have three options: receive protection from God, or humiliate yourself, or leave this person. If a person is proud of themselves, they push people away. Self-esteem can move forward, and then a person falls into a state of restlessness. They begin to rush around, lose themselves, lose luck in life. They don't have time for anything, and everything needs to be done faster. Self-esteem can move backward, and a person becomes depressed, begins to live in the past, remembering how things were. Their memory goes to the past. Self-esteem can move to the left, and then a woman becomes very tearful, offended, unhappy. For a woman, it's sometimes normal to sit and cry, feel offended, and then calm down. If a man's self-esteem moves to the left, he loses himself. A man cannot sit and cry, feeling offended. For a man, this is the destruction of his life. If a man's self-esteem moves to the right, he becomes angry, evil, cruel. And for a man, this is normal. Sometimes men experience this. If a woman's self-esteem moves to the right, she loses her personal life, and she immerses herself in business, in work, and loses herself as a person. Therefore, self-esteem regulates relationships. When a person behaves incorrectly with you, they are testing your self-esteem. A person's self-esteem can only be protected by God. Therefore, if a person does not believe in God, they cannot preserve themselves in this world. People who believe in themselves can preserve themselves until trouble comes. All these movies for people who believe in themselves are built in a certain way. Trouble that could destroy them should never come to them in life. For them, everything always ends well. No bullets can touch them. Everything should be good. God forbid something goes wrong, then the movie is not interesting to watch, because people who believe in themselves always need everything to be good. It should be that way, no other way, no options. When people believe in God, they can withstand injustice. They preserve themselves, they have the inner strength for this. Only self-esteem gives a person the opportunity to survive in the most difficult life situation. Self-esteem is always supported by faith. There must be purity in the heart. A person must know that someone loves them, that there is someone who loves them. This is called faith. When a person monitors their self-esteem, they monitor their heart. In the heart, there should always be calmness, kindness, and firmness. Kindness is not a person's consciousness, it is God's consciousness. When difficult fate comes, a person's kindness first turns into a desire for truth and then into hatred. When cruel fate comes, and a cruel fate is now operating in the world, kindness gets washed away in people's hearts. And most people enter a state of truth. They choose some side of the conflict. They choose one-sided thinking. And it can be even worse when people transition to a state of hatred. Hatred is the energy of war. Hatred destroys a person's life. A person who hates destroys themselves and ruins everyone around them. Everyone who comes into contact with them, building a close relationship, they also get destroyed. I was asked a very good question at the beginning of the lecture: how to preserve oneself when degradation reigns around. And the answer to this question is very simple. A person should know that only close relationships, meaning relationships in which you trust, in which you believe, hope, wait, can destroy you. Therefore, build close relationships only with dignified people, only with those people who pray, lead a correct lifestyle, strive toward God, want to change everything in life, want to develop. Business relationships are not meant to be deep. You build business with someone, you should not open your heart to this person. Opening the heart can only happen if a person is working on themselves and developing. You shouldn't open your heart to a person who does business with you. If you have a weekend friendship, meaning you go somewhere together to relax, you don't need to open your heart to this person, because you will get burned, you'll be befouled through this. Opening the heart is only possible when people strive toward God together. Then there is meaning in it. Otherwise, there will be befoulment. Befoulment means, for example, you said something and then someone took advantage of it, or you were misunderstood. You feel bad in your heart thinking, why did I say this? You start to prove, defend your rightness, and it gets even worse afterward. It bothers you, but if you open your heart to a good person, you receive happiness from it. I'm opening my heart to you. You are good people. Bad ones would have left long ago. That's why we experience happiness. What questions do you have for me on this topic of relationships?
I have one question. You talked about this at the beginning of the lecture. How do you maintain balance helping people but not losing yourself? When you help people, you get very tired, and at one point you realize that you're not there. You've lost yourself. How do you maintain balance?
I help you. Do I lose myself? Imagine if I were losing myself, what would happen to me? I've been giving lectures for 30 years. I would probably be dead by now. The secret is very simple. You cannot help anyone, no one, not even yourself. And I also cannot help anyone. There is only one person who helps, God. And when you are kindly disposed toward a person, know that this kindness is his energy. It's not your energy. And simply knowing this saves you from fatigue and exhaustion, because you know the boundaries. You know what you can and what you cannot. You lose yourself when people want something from you that you cannot do, but you agree to it. You say, I can, and deceive yourself and others. You lose yourself and others as a result. People begin to humiliate you and use you.
Is it possible to help a person who needs help and at the same time takes advantage of it?
What do you think help is? If you feed a snake milk, it becomes even more poisonous. Do you know about this? If you feed a cobra milk, its poison accumulates much more. It becomes even more deadly. If you help a person and they take advantage of it, they can destroy your entire life afterward. That's why there is God. He is right in the heart and he tells you that you're not helping this person correctly. There are two ways to help. One is to act as the person wants, the other is to discipline. There are two types of love. A lioness who has a very soft heart wants to help everyone. Sometimes evil people take advantage of this.
How should one express gratitude?
I receive a lot of help. I don't know how to thank people. You need to try to do it from the bottom of your heart.
Maybe in some other way?
Wish in your heart for that person to succeed in life. This is a very powerful blessing. I don't even know how much this can change a person's life. If we bless from the heart, everything will be fine in their life. In some area of their life, the most difficult one for them.
At the beginning of the lecture, you said that each person has a purpose that comes from past lives, which you can also see in this life. How do you understand your purpose?
Let's divide this into two things here. There is an activity that brings success, and you feel that everything works out for you. This is one purpose, and the second purpose is when you experience deep satisfaction in your heart from something. Don't confuse these two things. Let's separate them. If we talk about deep satisfaction of the heart, there are two types of happiness. One is the happiness from comfort, coziness, when you have money, work, a spouse, children, an apartment, a car, a good bank account, savings. This gives calmness, you feel secure, but this is not happiness. Rather, it's a type of happiness, but it's not deep. It doesn't bring a deep feeling that you're not living your life in vain. It doesn't give you the feeling that it's great because you lived this life for a purpose. This kind of satisfaction doesn't come from this. You have a feeling that everything is going well, but there is no sense of deep satisfaction. Deep satisfaction in life comes to a person if they do something for God. Deep satisfaction comes to your heart from the Lord Himself. If you do something valuable, you will feel it in your heart. This is called service to God. Everyone may have their own way of service. Someone feeds the poor, someone helps others in life. When you live not for yourself and do things so that the Lord would be happy, you don't do it for your own goals, not to become famous or anything else. You do it so that the Lord would be happy. You do it selflessly. Professional success is a gradual thing. A man has his own stages. The first stage is called activation. Male energies are very powerful on their own. They need to be activated. They are activated through willpower, and for most men, this activation happens simply through sports. A man goes to the gym or goes jogging, or he trains somehow, and at some point when he does this, his will to win awakens. He begins to feel that he can do it. It's important for a man to feel that he can achieve his goals, overcome obstacles. He stubbornly moves forward, doesn't give up, continues, keeps trying. And every person has a threshold that they step over and move to the next level of development. And for a man, the next level of development is called interest in work. Until willpower is activated in a man, it's impossible to activate his interest in work. First, a man must feel that he can do it. And then when he has felt that he can do it, after some time he develops an interest for hobby or the ability to be interested in something, to be passionate about some activity that often nobody needs except him. This is the next stage of development. After this stage of development, when he already loves doing something, he simply needs to find a job where he brings some benefit and establishes himself there for several years with the goal of learning to love work and not searching for anything else. Not just doing something that he enjoys, but loving to do something for people. And as soon as a man has learned to love work, he simply enjoys working, not sitting at home, not being idle, but enjoys working. From that moment, he begins to develop a sense of where it's better for him to work. This is the next stage of development called work according to abilities. A person's abilities awaken. When they have awakened, a man finds a job where he can earn money, but doesn't experience a feeling of deep happiness. He's doing fine with money, he works, he's needed there, has a good profession, but he gets tired at work, feels that he's not developing, and it's not interesting for him. The next stage of development is not achieved simply through work. It is achieved through self-improvement. Let's step back. At the beginning of the lecture, we said that we don't live just one life, right? A person has mental abilities which come from the past life. And the abilities of intelligence come from many consecutive lives. This intelligence doesn't change in a person. There are people who are scientists by nature, there are leaders, there are businessmen, there are simply artistic people. And their intelligence is tuned differently to this world. Scientists believe that knowledge will save the world. And such people who strive for knowledge, they can be teachers, coaches, priests, lawyers, attorneys, doctors. They generally want to help people, give them knowledge. They want to help people, develop people. The second category of people believes that social structure will save the world. These people are leaders. They don't want to give knowledge but give protection, refuge to people. We are talking now about activity according to human nature, which brings deep satisfaction. The third category is people who believe that prosperity will save the world. These are businessmen. They like to produce things for people. The fourth category believes that one should simply do what one loves, and this will benefit everyone. Three categories take responsibility for people, and the fourth does not. Three categories are the leaders of society, and the fourth is simply people who want to bring benefit through their work. These categories do not change over many lives. Each person belongs to one of the categories, but not everyone has developed the understanding and ability to live that way. To achieve such development, one needs to engage in spiritual practice. For this, one needs to work on oneself and strengthen one's intelligence, because these four categories, which correspond to a person's nature, are in a person's intelligence. And a person cannot do such activity for themselves. If you want money, you will work according to your abilities. But if you want to care for people, help them, then this activity is called a person's mission, and it is given by God as service. A person should put the good of people first, and their material needs second, or perhaps even last. Then there will be deep satisfaction in life because it comes from God, and you then act for God, not for yourself. Let me give you an example. I once gave a lecture in one city. I was driven to the airport by a man who told me that he had been a teacher. He taught children and experienced great happiness in the 90s. But when political changes happened in Russia and teachers stopped earning enough, he simply didn't have enough money for his family, and he started making fur coats, doing business, and dreamed of teaching children. And he was telling me all this while driving. And he asked me how to return to what he used to do, how to start giving knowledge again. I explained to him that he had to build his fur coat business in such a way that it would work by itself. But I said, for this you need to develop as a person and reach such a level that you don't depend on money. This person has now become a very popular lecturer. He gives lectures on raising children. Maybe you even know who he is. He's a very well-known person. He gives lectures on raising children, explains how to treat them, talks about children. And he is very happy. This is how a person reached their purpose. Your question.
How many lives can a person live on this earth?
On this earth it varies. Some people live several lives, some live on other planets. I recently spoke with a young man who constantly remembers forests, rivers, fields, the sun when sleeping. When a person sleeps lightly, they mainly connect with their past lives. and this young man in his past life lived on a planet which is higher than the Earth. On a heavenly planet which has many forests. It's a huge planet, it's completely covered with beautiful forests, and there is no such concept as work there. Everyone there has some kind of activity, but they don't work, and it was very difficult for him to engage in work here, because he lived there for a long time, and there was no need to think about getting a job. And there's lots of nature, beauty on that planet, and he dreams about this forest. He doesn't understand where these dreams come from. I told him that it was in the past. We are on Earth now. Here you need to work, and he needed to decide what to do in life. I explained to him that he needs to start working, that life in the forest ended in the past life. We are very dependent on past lives, especially if we lived in paradise. There is such a phenomenon as unrequited love. A person cannot forget and remembers for many, many years the person they fell in love with, and cannot understand what kind of obsessive memory this is, where it comes from. But in reality, this person you fell in love with simply reminded you of someone with whom you lived together in paradise for 200 years. Just reminded you of that person, and this memory torments you, you cannot forget. But in reality, it's from the past. It's just an obsession. And when you meet this person up close, you can't understand what you're remembering in them. You meet them and can't find your love in them. But when you're apart from them, you start remembering again. Because they are just an instrument to remember what was before, but you can't understand that this is coming from the past. Here's the girl in the third row in red. She remembers, because in her past life she lived on heavenly planets, and for over 90 years she lived with one person, loved him, was happy. And in this life she simply saw a similar person and thinks it's him. In reality, the one you remember stayed there in that life. And this memory is inextinguishable. It's impossible to forget how you lived with someone for 90 years. It's unforgettable if you live happily with someone. How can you forget that? That's why she remembers it. The memory remains, but it's not from this life. The person you remember merely reminded you of someone who was there in your past life. Therefore, this world is very unusual. There's a lot we don't know here. You lived on Earth in your past life, and in the life before that, not on Earth.
Where then?
Lower than Earth. That's why you sometimes dream of battles, wars. It's from there, from the life before last. You fought there.
Fantastic dreams.
Yes, because all these movies like Star Wars come from lower planets. American culture comes from lower heavenly planets, technocratic planets. These technocratic planets where Star Wars takes place are lower heavenly planets. They are now strongly influencing Earth and our consciousness, and people are being directly tuned to these energies.
Is this from a past life?
Yes, from a past life on a planet lower than Earth.
Why are they called lower heavenly planets?
Lower heavenly planets because the technocratic civilization creates comfortable living conditions.
Why not hellish?
These are lower worlds, but people live comfortably there. Because there is a technocratic civilization there.
Aren't heavenly planets above Earth?
There are heavenly planets above Earth, and there are heavenly planets below Earth. Those who are born in America come here mainly from lower heavenly planets. And to Europe from higher heavenly planets. And to Russia they come from hell.
Coming from lower heavenly planets to Earth, is this transition up or down?
This is an upward transition in relation to what was before. Therefore, this technocratic culture, Star Wars, do not bring us happiness. They destroy us. This culture destroys us. It's not something that gives us development. We can only be developed by spiritual practice, the Bible, the scriptures. This is what develops us. Spiritual culture gives us the right movement upward. But all these Star Wars give a person downward movement.
Is this somehow connected with other civilizations?
I don't know about these civilizations. I can't say anything about them. I can say that you came here from higher planets. You still have this higher taste. You feel this civilization. Often we seem to feel something here on Earth. We compare everything with Earth. In reality, what you feel, see, and remember is not Earth. These are higher worlds.
Dr. Torsunov, what determines whether a person goes to a higher or lower planet?
Everything that violates the commandments of Moses leads us downwards. Cheating, betrayal, insulting people, destroying someone's happiness, killing someone, defaming, stealing big money, all of this leads us downwards. That's why Moses said, guys, don't do it.
And if you make amends?
So what if you make amends? You kill someone and make amends?
Not necessarily kill.
Made a small mistake. Making amends means admitting once that you were wrong and doing something good 10 times. You need to understand that making amends works, but not in a way that everything is forgiven. This exists in all these cultures. Jews have Yom Kippur. It means that on this day, once a year, you don't work, you pray all day, and all sins are forgotten.
And you sin all year long.
I now have Jewish citizenship, and I'm somewhat immersed in this topic. Jews have a joke about Yom Kippur. A young man looks at God, and God tells him, "I will punish you for the sins you have committed." The young man says, "But I didn't eat all day, didn't sleep, didn't drink. I prayed to you." "But you sinned all year, abandoned your wife, and did many other things." The young man says, "I agree, but I didn't eat all day, didn't drink, and didn't sleep." And God says, "Okay, I forgive you. One day is not enough, my dears." It won't work like that. It's not that easy. It's not that simple. Here's a man who abandoned his wife. And he asks, "Dr. Torsunov, I cruelly abandoned my wife. I now have a good family. Will I suffer with this woman for abandoning my previous wife?" I say, "Definitely." And he says, "What can I do to avoid suffering?" I say, "Pray to God, go to temple, serve God." And that's how it turned out. He was afraid that his family would be destroyed again, just as he had destroyed his previous one. And what happened? God taught him a lesson. There were difficulties, but he preserved his family because he tried. But sometimes people can't cope, and the marriage falls apart. All sorts of things happen. It depends on who you abandoned. If you abandoned your wife with 5 children, then you abandoned 6 people. Do you think you can build your happiness on other people's misfortune? No, it won't work. Either go back, or you're going to be taught a lesson by God. Whether you pray or not, He will still punish you, because there are sins that a person cannot redeem in one lifetime. For example, abandoning 6 people, leaving them without money. I know one person, he was very well known, helped many people. He abandoned his wife with 4 small children. Everything went downhill immediately. The Lord started punishing him very harshly right away.
I have 2 questions. First, what qualities do I need to develop in this life? Second, how do I understand if a difficulty is given to me to overcome it, or if I'm doing something wrong and that's why the difficulty arises?
The first answer to the first question is this: your nature is to give knowledge to people, and you should move in this direction. You should study how to live correctly and teach others. And then you will get deep satisfaction. And the second question, how to understand whether these difficulties God is giving? It's the same thing. We need to understand that all difficulties we have are given to us by fate, and also they all come from God. If a person overcomes these difficulties and lives correctly, then on one hand they do what God wants, and on the other hand they overcome their fate. It's all the same thing. The Lord mercifully gives us difficulties so that we can develop. That's the reason for these difficulties. There is no evil in this world. All the evil you see around is intended for our development. If we could develop on our own, not becoming lazy because of the happiness that comes to us, there would be no evil. Evil arises because we don't want to develop ourselves.
So it turns out that these difficulties are my lessons that I need to learn?
Yes, it's called Groundhog Day.
And if the difficulties have changed, does it mean a new stage has begun?
That's right. Your question.
How do I understand which healing practice is necessary for me?
For you, the most important practices are staying in water and stationary position of the body.
What does water mean?
Water means still water, bath, swimming pool, sea. A shower won't help. The ocean will help. Your question.
We were talking about a relationship between spouses, but I have a question about relationships with parents. It seems to me that this is much more difficult and not so easily resolved.
Dear parents, could you give me some money?
If the question was only about money, it would be much simpler.
We'll talk about it tomorrow. This is another topic.
Have you already swum in our ocean?
We'll go swimming on Friday, and we'll also run.
Will you tell us later what power you felt from the ocean? You mentioned that there is some personality behind water that protects it.
I'll tell you everything. This city, this country is designed for developing a person's self-esteem. Self-esteem develops here. There are different karmic tasks, zones for living. Here, the first and main task for a person to be successful is to strengthen their sense of self-esteem. And as soon as this strength appears in them, then it's not difficult for them to become successful here in this country. You need to have a sense of self-esteem that cannot be destroyed, humiliated, and one shouldn't be proud. Here, fate tests people on this. It teaches them to be dignified. Here you need to be a strong person, dignified, and show yourself strongly among people, not show your weakness. Here people don't like weakness, they only like dignity, only inner strength.
And in Russia?
Russia is a country of faith. Their people learn to believe. But they often learn the wrong things. Each country teaches something.
What about the East?
India is designed for service to God. Temples are meant for joy. Their people learn fearlessness. Their lesson is fearlessness as the foundation of life. They must become fearless. Chinese people learn diligence and obedience. Americans learn a sense of self-esteem. This is a nation that develops self-esteem within itself. Canadians know how to truly evaluate themselves and other people. All right, my dear friends, it's time to finish. I wish you all happiness, peace, love, health, and all the best in your life. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much and see you soon.